Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's tutorial, I'll show you how to draft a basic skirt pattern from scratch. If you're a beginner, this is one of the first patterns you'll need for every other skirt styles. So for this tutorial, you'll be needing your waist measurement, your hip measurement, and your full length measurement. That's where you want your skirt to stop. So I went ahead to impute my vertical measurement. So for this, my waist to hip is 9 inches. Usually from your waist to your hip is 9 inches. But I like to mark it at 8 and 10 inches just so that I can avoid that sharp edge when you finish sewing your skirt. So I'm going to go ahead and connect this. This is me connecting our horizontal lines. Connect your hip lines. For me, like I said, I mark at 8 and 10 just to avoid that sharp hip that people usually have in their clothes. Okay, so I'll be using the beginning of the material for the waist, and then I'll be using the full length of this pattern paper. So I'm going to go ahead and impute my horizontal measurement. So I'll be imputing my waist divided by 4, and I'll go ahead to add 1.5 inches as my stitching allowance. On the hip measurement, measure your hip round and impute your hip divided by 4 plus 1.5 inches as the stitching allowance. Okay, so note what I'm doing. I marked the hip measurement divided by 4 on the 8 inches line and the 10 inches line. Okay, don't forget that your hip measurement from waist to hips is 9, but I mark at 8 and 10 to avoid the sharp curve. So I'm going to measure what I have on the hip, and I'll minus 3 inches for it because I want this to be a pencil skirt. I want the skirt to be very pencil. I'm going to minus 3 inches from what we have on the hips. So you can go ahead and minus 2 inches if you don't want it to be very tight. So now I'll be connecting a straight line from the hips to the hem. Okay, as you can see, this is what we were trying to avoid. We're trying to avoid that sharp curve. Okay, so now also mark a straight line from the hip to the waist to the hip. Okay, hope you can see what I'm doing. And then I use this edge to smoothen out the hip curve. Okay, to smoothen it out, you're going to see what we have. Okay, so this is me using my marker to make it more visible for you. I hope you understand what I'm saying. So I went ahead to make it more visible. As you can see, the curve we have, it's not very sharp at the hips, and that's because I didn't use 9 as the hip length, because if I had used 9, it would be very sharp at that edge when we are trying to connect the curves. Okay, but then, like I said, if you want to make yours more free, you don't want it so tight, you can go ahead and minus and add 1 inch. So instead of using your hip measurement minus 3 inches, you go ahead to use your hip measurement minus 2 inches. Don't forget. Now I'm going to connect it all the way down so that you're going to see what it will look like. For those that do not like the skirt to be very tight at the leg area, this is what you're going to have. As you can see, the one on the pencil line is what you're going to have, but I want to use the tighter one. I want my own very tight. So go ahead to cut it off. This is a very simple tutorial. So this is what you have, but because I want mine to be very tight, I'm going to be cutting this off. Okay, and that's how to draft a dartless basic skirt pattern. In the next tutorial, I'll be teaching you how to sew a basic skirt with this pattern. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.